The Neural DSP Quad Cortex has been out for a few years now, and it's maybe one of the most popular modeler units on the market in terms of that sort of side of guitar. Now, me personally, I quite like myself a pedal board. This one is actually mine, and I'm going to see how easy it is for me to replicate this on a Quad Cortex. Now, this is my first example of using modeling. If anybody's watched any of our content here at Guitar, then I've used a mix of modeling stuff, kind of like a Helix or a Quad Cortex actually recently, and also more analog / digital stuff in the form of my pedal board here. Now I get all the sounds I need from this, just kind of, it ticks every box that I need for the style of playing. Get a lot of other things as well. And I guess maybe a little bit personal as well, but I was never the biggest fan of the Neural DSP Quad Cortex when it came out. Now, I thought it sounded amazing. I thought the plugins that they did were absolutely superb, but in all honesty, there wasn't anything completely grabbing me from the start when it launched. Super happy for all those people who grabbed them. Certainly, Aaron, who does the camera, he absolutely loves his. This is his own laptop stand that he's graciously donated for this video today. But after the past few years with some new updates, and actually a little bit more hands-on time with it, I've really started coming around on this unit, and I think it's just, there's a lot of stuff under the hood, and a lot of stuff that I think a lot of people that would get quite a lot of use out of, even if you don't want to go down that full modeling or the capture stuff, or, you know, having like a million different things go off at once. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm basically going to just try and replicate my board here as easily as possible in the Quad Cortex and see just how it handles up against the real thing. So as you can see from here, I've got a few things that I'm going to be kind of referencing throughout most of the video, to be fair. Going into a compressor, a couple of stages of overdrive, distortion and fuzz, of chorus, and an analog delay here as well, or tape delay, sorry, it being the Echoplex, and a few different versions of reverb. Now, nothing too crazy on there. As I said, it kind of does everything that I need it to. But there will be some other things that I will show you with the Quad Cortex. So let's just dive right in today. I'm going to be using the Ibanez AZ42P1 for the sounds in this. And the amp that we're using is the Supro Black Magic combo that's mic'd up with an SM57 and an SM27. So let's just dive right into the unit here. As you see, I'm starting on a blank patch. Everything is completely empty there, and actually, let me properly go back to the blank state here because there's one little thing that I'll want to do a little bit later. So I guess let's just start creating. So with the touch screen here, I'm going to insert my first pedal, which is going to be the compressor. Now, I use a Dynacomp on mine because I find it really easy to use. But let's see. That's the Dual. This seems really easy as well. There's not too much options on here. I guess this is actually probably an appropriate time for you to hear my clean signal. Super dry, nothing really happening on there. So let's see what this compressor's doing. And this is the Dual compressor. Make it a little less squashy, and actually I want to make that a little bit brighter as well there, just with the EQ that's just there. Cool, I'm happy with that. Now, let's go into, actually before we do that, let's assign that to a foot switch, shall we? So the way you do that, for anyone who wants to know, there's just an option once you've pressed on the actual block that you're using. Press this little foot switch assign here, all your buttons will light up. You assign which one it goes to. Easy as that. You'll now see that that little green light there indicates that my compressor is on. Super simple. Now, next pedal in my board is a Nobels ODR1. It's the other green box overdrive that I think a lot of people confuse with a tube screamer. And what do you know? The Neural DSP Quad Cortex has one of those built in. So let me reference my knobs on there. Drive up a little bit. Spectrum kind of sitting just a little bit down there, and then level up here. So set this to B. Let's just do it in exactly the same order as my board. So let's see. Slight bit of volume discrepancy in there as well, but listen, we're not doing this for any sort of live show or anything just now. I'm just showing you how easy this is. So there may be some volume discrepancies which I'll adjust certainly before we put everything all together. So here's how that sounds. One of the reasons that I particularly love the Noble Zodiac 1 so much is actually because it's quite a transparent-ish sort of, I hate using that term for overdrives as well, just it's so overused these days, but it really is, because it doesn't really get that in the way of your signal. It just kind of does push everything, and obviously that does sound like there's an overdrive on. But if I roll my volume down just that little bit, there's still a lot of scope for any sort of, volume jump if you want to, or more gain just by using your volume control there as well. Now, we did forget to mention something right at the start, which is the most important thing when it comes to pedal boards, or certainly one of the most important pedals that you should have, and that's a tuner. Now, there's obviously, you can plug a tuner into the front of the unit here and use something, say like a TU3 if there is one. Ah, there it is. If you want to just have one sat right next to it. I've seen a lot of people do that on their pedal boards before, or any sort of board that's carrying their Quad Cortex. But for anybody who just wants to take this out on the road, or to just use this as your pedal board, you press and hold this button here, and that will actually open up the tuner as well. Nice and bright, it's really accurate, it's really, really good. You'll probably see me reference it a couple of times during this video as well, because hey, guitars are stringed instruments, they're going to move all the time. So let's move on to the next pedal in my board, which is a Friedman BEOD distortion pedal, which I use for my distortion and my lead tone. And yeah, I knew they had one in there as well. You hear that's pretty lively, just kicking that off right away there. So let me just set it kind of similar to the way that I have now. It's a really, really quite intense pedal, so I always leave my gain like pretty low on it. And then I actually boost the bass for my lead tone. I'm just using reference to this to the actual pedal that's on the ground here as well. Let's see how that guy's sounding. Guess that's one thing, just as I've been putting this into the actual unit right now and building this board, it is a lot easier than maybe some other units, mostly just because you do have this large screen display and all of your options are just here. And you'll maybe seen me using the switches and the foot switches for, to adjust anything. You can use the actual on-screen options too, but I actually find it much easier to use these as rotary knobs here. It's just another little quite cool design that the Quad Cortex has got going for it. But let's just see how that guy's sounding. Yeah, that sounds great. I'll just reduce that down and set that to a foot switch as well. actually, I do this quite a bit as well, so let's see how they sound combined together. Sounds absolutely great. Actually, really similar response to the pedal as well, which I'm quite used to, and I love that pedal tons and tons and tons. It's based on a Friedman BEOD amplifier, so it's cool to see that that pedal's just in there and it sounds just as good as the normal one. So the next stage that I've got is a fuzz. Particularly, it's a triangle big muff, which is a more kind of old school one. Now there is a fuzz pie in here, which the Quad Cortex, much like some of the other modelers as well, they've got quite a few just cool little names, very much sort of a bit of a wink and a nod to what they are based on. And they're not particularly trying to hide the fact that some of these are in here, which is cool. Chief DS1, we know that's a boss. Come on, that's cool to see that that's in there. But also, one of the cool things, obviously, with Quad Cortex is that you're able to capture pedals. So if your friend has got something that maybe isn't built into here, you can actually capture that in quite an easy way. If you do want to see that process, let us know down in the comments. I can maybe do a little quick look at that because it's super easy to do. But what I'll do is I'll throw in a fuzz there as well, but I'm going to change it up, which is one of the benefits, I think, of having like a modeler like this is, I've got that triangle big muff on there. I do really like it. But say, for example, I wanted something that was a bit more like fuzz face, sort of, flavored. We need to go out and buy a fuzz face, replace it on the board, wire it in. Whereas with something like this, I can literally just click on the block, change it out, or even have both on if I really wanted to. So let's see what this facial fuzz is like. Yeah, cool. This is kind of fuzz facey sort of style. This even gives you things like what pickup style is used on it and everything. Now, I'll predominantly be using this with humbuckers, I think. So let's see how this guy handles. Just check my levels as I'm doing this as well. That's one thing you have to worry about is some of these patches are already put in with their volume just absolutely cranked. So keep an eye on it just before you absolutely blow the house down. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that as well. That sounds really cool. You can set that to D. So I mean, there's already all my compressor and my drive stages all just built on there. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this opportunity to save. Because if anything, my years and years of playing video games have taught me that. So let's call this Pedalboard. And I've got to say, having a QWERTY keyboard in here as well, that's the easiest way that I've ever done that on there rather than having to go through some rotary stuff. So let's move on to our last 4 options. Now, certainly on my board, I've got another 4 pedals to go through. So I'm going to just show you something that I find really, really cool on the Quad Cortex as well. So you notice I've been working with just this one line here. All my pedals are on it and I can move them. There's an option, if you're familiar with like any of the Helix stuff, or any other modeling software, you have a separate path underneath. So if you don't want, say for example, some delays and reverbs maybe going through your distortions, almost kind of treating them like an effects loop, you can do that as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm just obviously going to set this up exactly the way my board is, and just everything's running into each other. So the next pedal that I'm going to do, I'll stick at the end of the chain here, is going to be our modulation, and I've got a Boss CE2W. There is actually a CE2W just right in here as well. I'm going to set it to the way that every CE2 should be set, which is the right here and the depth here. Let's see how that guy sounds. Now, I think that sounds great, but I maybe want something just a bit more dramatic. So this is, again, where the sort of benefits of having a modeler come in, is that you can just sort of chop and change as you see fit and really test out some stuff, which is cool. So I'll show you exactly what I did there. So I've highlighted the CE2W, I've clicked on these three dots just here, and I've actually just got up to change device. This then gives us back to our effects options here, and actually one of the ones that I really like is the chorus engine, and only just because it just sounds like immediately cool. That sounds so good. So let me set this to E here, and that's us got our modulation. Now, one of the things you'll notice now that I have reached the end of my chain here. Now I can compact everything just a little bit closer together, fit a couple of things in, but this is where another really cool thing of the Quad Cortex comes in. So I hit this multi-out option here, and then I hit row 3, 4. What I'm then doing is I'm feeding the chain all the way down here. Now you'll notice no more sound. What's going on there? All you need to do is just press this little plus here and actually just hit multiple outputs. Or specifically if you do have it set up in a particular way, but I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible here, and I'm actually just going out mono into there, into our amplifier. So if you do have the option to go stereo, you can as well, just with the jacks. But again, I'm keeping this super, super, super simple. So where are we going to go into? We're going to go into an Echoplex, which will be in our delays. Let me see, tape delay, mono. I'm going to move this over to the end here as well. Now, let me just set it. I'll see how that sounds actually just as itself. Be a bit much for what I want. One less, so maybe have like 4 repeats on that. Actually, I'll turn the drive down as well. I want some nice headroom. Trills are on. So another very important thing as well is that some of the options will have a couple of different pages that you can select between, which is super cool. Great sounding delay there. So now I've got a couple of different levels of reverb as well. I'm going to make this super, super simple. I'll do a modulated one to replicate the Walrus Audio Slow, and then I will just do a plate height for and I'm going to swap them over so that the plate feeds into that. So that's kind of replicating my slow, and then the Strymon Blue Sky, which, let's see how those sound individually, and let me just assign them to their foot switches here and turn off that guy. So this is the plate tight, pretty big. Maybe a little bit more on there as well. And then I imagine I won't need to do too much to this guy. I maybe want that a little bit more extreme as well, because this will be my kind of ambient delay when I need it. And of course, we mix that with all of the modulation, or not the modulation, the time-based effects. So I think that sounds absolutely great. Now, how long did that take? About 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or so. That's me then made pretty much a replica of what I have on my board there. Super, super easy. I can realistically take that anywhere that I would need to, and I get all the sounds that I would need just based on that. Now, you'll have noticed that the setup, and actually, you know what, see, before we jump into the next point I want to make, let's just go through a couple of different sounds very, very quickly. Cool, so for a couple of different clean sounds, I'll set my compressor on, delay, reverb. And then if I want to get, obviously, a little bit more reverb on there as well, I have the option. I think that sounds great. That's pretty much the clean sound that I would be using with my pedal board. Now, seeing where we would be sitting with, like, say, the Nobles, I mean, just show you as well, if you do want to, obviously, that reverb there is pulling a little bit of the modulation, whereas if I do want to throw the chorus on it as well. Immediately transporting myself back to the 80s with that one as well. Now, I'd probably just keep my delay and my reverb on most of the time, to be fair. So even going to the Nobles here, and we'll switch over to humbucker. But for that, maybe I'll go dry. What I would realistically use that for as well is, you know, say if I do have, I'm not doing like straight up rhythm stuff, if I just want like a little bit of hair on stuff, instead of using the compressor, I'd maybe use the Nobles and then turn my volume down quite considerably. Loads and loads of options there too, and then of course the Friedman for my lead tone, what I've been using. That sounds great, and then of course I can mix that in with other stuff if I really wanted to. Almost about to play the Top Gun theme there, it feels like. Then of course the fuzz face as well, which just sounds cool, and I've never had a fuzz face, so it's nice to be able to throw one in there, and you can combine obviously the different options on top of that as well. Now, one thing I did forget to mention is that you can adjust all this not only from the unit very easily, but there is the Neural DSP app that you can download for your phone, and there is also now the desktop editor as well, which you can get in and adjust everything via that, which is really good if you've got this unit on the floor, because you don't want to be going over and adjusting it all with your hands while it's down there. So it means you can run that into your computer and adjust it without, you know, totally breaking your back. So the other thing that I wanted to mention with the Quad Cortex, certainly set up like this in pedal mode, you know, say for example you have built a board yourself, and I said it took maybe 10-15 minutes to build the board, but I was doing a lot of explaining as well, so certainly for yourself it'll probably only take you about 5 minutes for you to build a pretty substantial pedal board with a lot of different options on it. Now, one of the limitations that certainly you'll notice, and certainly it just comes with the design, is that I'm only getting the option for 8 pedals. Now 8 pedals is a lot. That's, you know, I have kind of went a bit overboard in terms of 2 reverbs, couple of different levels of gain stage. You know, some people might not need that at all. But what you can actually do, and this is quite a cool little feature that certainly Neural DSP, they're not the inventors of it, but it's really cool to see it put into this unit as well. And it's something called scene mode. Now, what scene mode essentially does is it changes all your 8 foot switches here into scenes. And what that means is that you can realistically change parameters, bypasses a bunch of different options within your, I was going to call that a scene there as well. I guess it is kind of a scene in terms of your patch that you've built here. So the easiest way I think is to probably show you. So I'm going to turn everything off. Here, we've just got complete clean signal. Maybe time to use that tuner again once more. Hey, we're live, folks, you know. This is what happens. And I get to show off the nice tuner as well.
It'd be a good thing to mention that instead of like taking pedals off the board and like rearranging them, you can simply just like drag and drop them as well. Like that's a really cool feature.
You mean like this?
Yeah.
Just like that.
So like if you want to like shift your fuzz over to one side or mix and match distortions and stuff.
Yeah, it's super easy, and this is coming from the guy who owns one as well. So this is word straight from the user's mouth. Hey, maybe I'll be an owner sometime soon as well, Noodle. But anyway, obviously the click and drag features I'm going to show just in a second, because I think this is going to be really handy for certainly an option like this. So let's say scene A, this is my clean tone. This is the one that I was talking about in the first bit of the sounds there. So what you need to do, you'll see this on the screen here. I'll come at it from the top here so you can see it a bit more. This is our bypass option here. Now what you do is you click and press this. And you can see that there is 4 small squares that have just appeared next to our bypass option there. What this has done is this has now activated it in scene mode. Now you can do that for any of the parameters as I've mentioned. That can come really in handy, particularly with distortions, maybe with delays and stuff like that. I'm just going to keep it simply to bypass to make it super simple for this section of the video. So we're on scene A. I'm going to want the compressor on. I'm going to want our tape delay on, my tape delay on, and then I'm going to want the tight plate on there as well. Now what that's done, you'll see there when I switch over to option B, this activates all 3 of these pedals at once. So instead of me having to go A, G, or A, F, and G, where all of these pedals were set up, I realistically press one button there, and that's me activated 3 pedals, which I could do the same for B as well. Now, this is potentially the only slightly tedious part, is that you do need to go through and activate each one for scene mode. So I'm just going to do that to make things just that a little bit quicker right now as well. So B, let's even make that an ambient tone, shall we? So compressor on, I'm going to turn this on, I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to turn this on, and you know what, let's turn the modulation on as well. So you'll see that that now brings in the modulation and the bigger reverb as well. So super simple. Now I'll just even show you very quickly to the sort of most extreme version of that, where we're going to go And actually, this is just a great opportunity as well to show that you can just throw in other stuff into the Quad Cortex if you want to. Because I do want a little bit of a boost in front of that, the Friedman, but not in the way that it's going to colour it like the Nobles will. So let's throw in like an exotic boost there. Lower the gain a bit. I want to boost the bass, make it a bit warmer, cut the treble. Remember to turn it on to scene mode. Now I do need to bypass it on the other options as well because that's just automatically went on. Still in good levels there. Let me turn on my tape delay. Plate tight. Plate tight. And there we go. Couple of bum notes in there, but hey, I was just getting excited about tone, right? But let me go through. Guess there's another slight thing as well, is once I've thrown in a new pedal into the chain, especially within scene mode there, it's now activated that on everything when I go through. Now, even just for talking's sake, let's make our last patch here something absolutely mental. So I'll put the boost on, I'll put the fuzz on, then let's again add something that I maybe don't have options with my normal board, and maybe some of those are a bit insane.
Octaver?
Hey, that's a great shout. Let's put on an octaver. That sounds cool. And again, need to activate that in scene mode there. And why not? Let's just add a little bit more modulation into that as well. Because you can. That's the cool thing again about these units, is that you can just add anything you want. Just to mess about with. Hey, a rotary on the back of that there? Why not? And a bit of peaking, of course, but that's because I didn't check the output of this guy. And I'll set it to scene mode. Again, I need to go through the tedious option of actually changing it. Maybe one slight criticism I'd have on that side there. But then, you know, with the press of a button.
Remember, you've got your swipe up as well, like the screen.
If I can do it, there we go. So this will actually, you can name these as well, which is super, super easy and super handy, obviously, if you are on stage. See, there's just a wealth of knowledge in the Quad Cortex. And I mean, it's been great having Aaron around to kind of walk me through these sort of the waters. Whenever I've got any questions about this, he's always really good at obviously answering because he has one himself and gets a lot of use out of it, just even in terms of messing around, making new sounds, just having the ability to, you know, we've not even touched on all the amps that are in here because primarily that's what this guy's really, really good for. But, you know, just with a couple of minutes and a couple of tweaks, you know, that's us going from this a lush clean with a compressor on it, all the way to a fuzz boosted rotary octave sound. It's a bit extreme, maybe not being able to use for much, but it just shows you how much you can actually get out of this unit. And, you know, I certainly think that I've built enough in here and for you know, a little bit of time. I'm even just checking my watch just now just to see where we got to in there. But even just from spending a little bit of time in here, you can really replicate your pedal board and just get everything in that little more kind of compact space. And I mean, I could put this realistically in the front of a guitar bag, I can put it in my backpack, I can turn up to a gig with it, and then there's all the sounds. And again, you don't need to go direct. That's just going into an amplifier with this. But there's obviously a lot more going on when it comes to the amplifiers and everything in there to really get the most out of the machine.
It's worth saying that it's not powering the amp.
Not powering the amp. That's very worth saying as well. Because this is essentially just a pedal board. It's going via just its own power supply into there as you would a pedal board, essentially. But there's good things. There's, not so great things about it as well. Like, for sure, I would maybe personally like a little bit of a way to switch between the sounds that a little bit quicker to see what you would like instead of going through a couple of menus. But definitely, if you're on like an editor, it's maybe a bit easier within the computer or the app. So there is workarounds on it. And certainly, one of my favourite things with it is the fact that, as I've mentioned a few times, you can just chuck stuff in there and see what you like. You don't need to go down to the shop and buy yourself a phaser. If you've got one of these, you can try it out. You don't like it, you swap it out for something else. It's as easy as that. But hopefully this shows you just some of the other options you've maybe got with the Quad Cortex. For sure, you could use this as an interface, you can use this as your whole rig, but I think that, replacing this with maybe something like this gives you a little bit less to worry about, in terms of patch cables, in terms of individual pedals, running out and all that sort of stuff. But within that as well, it does have the limitations that that's maybe going to be, your only sort of thing. If this goes down, then you don't have anything. So it's worth weighing it up. There's definitely pros and cons to it, but I'm definitely coming around on the Quad Cortex a lot more than I was when it was released. And I'm really excited to get my hands on it just that a little bit more. But let me know what you think down below. Is this something that you would realistically use with a modeler? Are you already doing this with a modeler? Do let us know in the comments. And if you have liked the video at all, like and subscribe. It really does help. If you want to see us do some more Quad Cortex content as well, we're more than happy. Let us know in the comments. But until next time, I've been Keiran, and this has been my kind of most easy attempt to recreate my pedal board with the Neural DSP Quad Cortex. Have a great day.